Wasn't the easy way, but it's the right way. I used to run from kindergarten with the truck drivers to go to the oil rigs because they used to know me and my father. So I always loved that lifestyle. And it's not the most glorious lifestyle, but it's the one that makes me happy. Basically, I was more or less a legal slave. And that was probably the scariest part of all this, beside the dumpster fire and the people getting arrested. I reached the address and I was sitting and looking at it, be like, I'm wondering this is the real deal or this just a good old Romanian robbery where they sell you fake papers and fake contracts. So I waited there on my backpack for a good hour and a half before it was light enough outside for me to go ring the doorbell.
When I was working on a roof all day, every day, sweating in the hot sun, I was always frustrated that my clothes really didn't get clean. They would be stiff and uncomfortable to wear. Smell came back after just a few moments of wearing them. Even in a drawer, they would start to smell musty in a very short period of time. So I wanted to tell you about my new partner, Athlete Fresh. Athlete Fresh isn't your typical detergent that covers up smells with strong fragrances. Athlete Fresh dives deep into the fabric to break down the enzymes in sweat that produce that terrible smell. It rinses clean with no residue left behind. No more stiff clothes and no more smell. Check them out, athletefresh.shop/FromTheGroundUpShow. Hey there, and welcome to From the Ground Up Show, the show where we encourage and inspire the next generation of free-thinking leaders by telling the stories of those that have been there, done that, and are still getting it done, building a life that they love with their hearts, their hands, and their hustle. I'm your host, Eric Loden. If you guys are enjoying the show, help me out. Pause the episode right now, take a moment and send this episode or send the show to a friend, a colleague that might benefit from it. If you guys can like, share, follow, subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, on YouTube, on social media, we are at From the Ground Up Show. You are our marketing plan. So the more that you can help us get the show out there, the more downloads, the more views that we get. If you can make sure you click that auto download button, that helps a lot. Getting those early downloads each week when the episode is released really helps a lot. If you want to snag some new From the Ground Up Show merchandise, coffee cups, sweatshirts, hats, whatever you want, we have it there. Check out our online store at shop.fromthegroundupshow.com. Today, I'm really excited. I have an old friend on the show. Attila Zold is joining me. Attila is a native Romanian, an American citizen, and has had a number of careers in the oil and gas field, both in Europe and the U.S., as well as having built a career in roofing. Attila has worked diligently and successfully to completely start over and build a new life a number of different times. Attila has a drive and a spirit that just keeps going regardless of adversity. He has worked extremely hard to build the life that he enjoys with his heart, his hands, and his hustle. So, Attila, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Eric.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. You and I spent a lot of time together over a number of years, quite some time ago, but we don't get to catch up as often as I would like. So it's fun getting to catch up a little bit this morning. Well, we will dive right in. I think this is going to be a fun and exciting interview, but Attila, can you tell us a little bit about your life growing up? I know you were born in Romania and grew up in Romania. What was that like?
Growing up as a kid was different, and I see kids growing up in this country, or for the matter of fact, the countries growing up in Romania these days. But we didn't know as kids that we're lacking a lot of stuff that other kids have. Basically, we didn't miss out on much. It was more of self-reliance as a family, and was all about maintaining relationships between neighbors, friends, and relatives. Simple childhood, very, very fortunate to have great parents, and I don't regret any of the things we didn't had as a kid, but we appreciate so much more everything we have now. And they're things that we went through as a kids that my kids will never understand. And even if I'm going to tell them one day, I don't think they're going to buy it. But we never even had the landline in the house to begin with, like a landline phone, and was normal for the whole country because everything was controlled by the government. So you couldn't really have the freedom of speech regardless if it was mail or phone or any other way. And my dad used to destroy a radio about every other year because it wouldn't work properly. And I recall when he was smashing them, the internal parts of the radio was already chopped up and got it. So the radio was released on a market for people to the point that you could not pick no foreign radio stations. So everything very tightly controlled by the government. So all the information that you could have access to was nothing but the straight propaganda. So you wouldn't miss much out of anything. And I remember having the daily blackouts, which was every afternoon. We have like 2, 3, 4 hours of no electricity, which was a national saving plan. So all kind of like you see in Cuba, rolling blackouts, lack of food, lack of standard things you have in US that they don't have, and for them is normal. They don't know different. So when you move from that away, then you appreciate what you have here so much more. In a nutshell, happy kids, lots of playing with toys and hide and seek and make believe stories, and no really technical childhood, no video games, no. We had a soccer ball, we chased that ball every day, we played hide and seek, and we just roam around the neighborhood, get in trouble, running into the woods. That was in a nutshell my childhood. So to me it was amazing. I wouldn't change it for nothing.
Having grown up, without some of those modern conveniences and enjoyed it so much, does that affect the way that you raise your kids now?
They are spoiled rotten. The one thing I try to keep them away is the TV. Like Junior is 2, and he gets glued to the TV, and you can't take him outside. He doesn't sleep right. So I try not to let him watch TV almost at all. And I'll force him to go outside, and he loves going outside. Like if you don't take the kid outside by 8, 9 o'clock, he's throwing tantrum fit. So I'm fortunate to have a yard, and he's happy to be in the yard 24/7. Now we'll try to raise him more an outdoor boy and not so much glued to a TV and a tablet. Eventually, I'm going to have to introduce him to it because going to the dentist a couple of weeks ago, mom was complaining that she raised her son without tablets and cell phones and TVs, and the homework at kindergarten level is already assigned on the tablets. So they're gonna force you to embrace the technology, which is not a terrible thing. You just have to have a balance between video games, tablet, TV, and outdoor activities. Kids should be kids. They should be burn that energy and not just be a vegetable on the couch. I just don't see that being healthy for their development.
Yeah, absolutely. So, speaking of education, what was your education like in Romania? I know you actually had quite an extensive college education there, didn't you?
I had a petroleum engineering degree in Romania, and that's thanks to my father's push, because I was more than happy to be part of the working class with him. He was a mechanic for the longest time for the gas company. He had many positions, but when I was a kid and I was looking at, all the kids have that your father is your hero stage, where I was a young kid and I was looking up at him. He always had like greasy hands, and I was like, oh, one day when I'm be grown up person, I want to be just like him or greased up. And he was not having that. So he forced me basically to go seek higher education, and he paid for it too. So I was fortunate from that standpoint. So I had no student loans, no nothing like it, and I just went in, got my degree, and I was fortunate enough to work for a couple of years in Romania as a employee for Romgas, which was the Romanian gas company at the time. Money-wise, at the time in 2000 and between 2003 and 2005, I was paid $200 a month. So as you can imagine, it doesn't really get you a whole lot.
So even as a relatively well-educated person in a highly professional career, the pay scale just wasn't there in Romania.
It was never there, yes. And even till this day, like compared to the rest of the workers, I was the top of the middle class. But compared to the rest of the world, you're underpaid. Okay. And that discrepancy carries on till this day.
Yeah. So if you were making $200, what would say if you had followed in your father's footsteps and become a mechanic, what would you have been making?
It less, would be less than that.
Significantly less. Okay.
And I'm just throwing there a random ballpark number. I'm guessing this day and age, they probably get like $2,000 a month, because a couple of neighbors of mine, they became doctors, like young, but 10 years younger than me. And they ended up passing a lot of years back that they pay doctors a standard 3,000 euros a month, which is, I don't know, $3,500, $4,000 a month. So if a doctor is paid $4,000 a month, I don't really imagine a mechanic being paid more than half of that.
Yeah.
So this day and age, they probably get $2,000 a month. But with this war in Iran. I was keeping track of the fuel prices because I see a lot of memes from Romania coming out about the fuel. And currently, the gasoline it's about almost $10 a gallon. So if you make $1,500 a month and a gallon is $10 a month, you can imagine all the rest of the price are tracking that. So you don't really get far in life.
Yeah. And so I imagine that was probably a motivating factor to cause you to come to the US. Is that the primary factor?
I wanted to travel. I wanted to see what world has to offer because at that point we had TV and I was seeing all the national parks in the world. And especially for me, I really wanted to see Yellowstone Park. That to me was the major factor, the dream factor. Between Yellowstone and New York and other parks in Australia, I wanted to find a way to be able to travel. And the only way for me to travel was to seek a job outside of Romania. And in the process, I was trying to go to Australia or New Zealand because at the time they used to have decent jobs. They would outsource,
Okay.
and they would outsource them through middleman companies, third-party companies. So I went and I signed up for one of these companies to pass me a job contract in case they have something outside of Romania. And they just so happened they called me a few years later, which was for me was phenomenal luck. And they told me that they have a job in Buffalo, USA. I said, great, I'm going there. It's like, you want to know more? Like, nope, that's all I need to know. It's in USA. I'll take it. So with that job contract, I had to pay for like $600, $700 at the time. That's how they make their money out of it. And I took that job contract and I went to the Romanian embassy in Bucharest and I had to go through the whole system and basically had to have a background check, runway tickets, you had to have health insurance for the time period you want to apply for the visa, and you had to have a proof of income. You had to have basically a decent life in Romania to be allowed to leave the country. Basically, they wanted to have some sort of proof that you will return and there's a reason for you to return. So once again, the job that was paying $200 a month in their eyes, that was a great job. So like, oh yeah, this guy's gonna be back for sure. Which I did, and I did that for like 2 years in a row before I find out that you don't have to return to your country to extend your work visa. You can do it in US, and that's how I was able to carry on and be here for longer. But when I came out to US, I just wanted to make some quick bucks, so I was able to travel more. And then I kind of developed the bug that, man, life here is so much different, and you can get so much done in way less time than the lifespan. And that was the driving factor behind my decision to try to stay. Because at the beginning, my plan was just to make some quick bucks, make a couple $1,000s, go see the world, and go home and be happy. But it's like I said, being from outside of the country, people here don't realize how many opportunities they have. And it's never easy, but it's easier to grow here than it is in Romania. Like basically, there, if you're not born in a rich family or in some sort of connected family, then you're gonna work your whole life just to stay afloat. And in US, I saw it from the get-go, like nothing served on a plate, but it's attainable. Like if you work for it, you can have things that you can only dream of in other places. And that's where, for me, till this day, American Dream, it's live and it's well. Like people who are depressed and unhappy, they should grab a backpack, go to a different country and see how great that's going to work out.
I appreciate that perspective. And like you said, it's not served up on a silver platter. It's not just there to have, but if you work hard, it's still attainable. And I think you're living proof of that. So you said it took $600 that you had to put together to pay the third party company to go out and find a work contract. How difficult was it coming up with that $600 when you're making $200 a month and have to live off of it? Was that a process?
That was quite a process, but I was always, once again, I was fortunate enough to have my brother-in-law to help me out front those money. So he loaned me the money for the
Okay.
contract and the plane tickets.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, to have basically, I need about $2,000 between the plane tickets and all the other fees. I need about $2,000. So I would have to have saved basically the whole year's salary without spending any. And on a paper it's doable, but in a real life, it's not so easy to save every penny up of your paycheck.
Yeah.
Granted, at the time I was living with my parents, so I was able to save more, but still to save all that money would have taken me 2, 3 years for sure.
I am back in the studio after a week away on MacArthur Company's latest customer incentive trip. We had 5 days at Playa Mujeres, Mexico, and man, what a trip it was. If you are in the building industry and you are not using MacArthur for your supplies, make sure that you check them out. They have branches across the nation, and as an employee owned company, they provide small town service. MacArthurCo.com, or give them a call to find the branch nearest you. And so the process of coming to the U.S., that's kind of when you and I met. I think I met you on your second day on U.S. soil. But I know there's quite a process traveling and a little bit of a story there. I'd love to hear that from your side. How scary was that, just hopping on a plane coming to the U.S. and not really knowing what was in front of you?
It was pretty scary. The one reason I embraced the travel with ease, when I went to the travel agency to book my tickets, it was a young girl my age that she's been to US previously, and she said, it's easy, just hop on a plane. If I was able to do it and I made it safe, you should be able to do it. So I was like, yeah, if a girl can do it, I can do it. Kind of. Not all people are equal as far as courage and spirit of adventure or the forethought of it's safe or unsafe to do it. But I hopped on the plane and I flew into Salt Lake City. And in my mind, I Googled back home Buffalo, Wyoming, and I had the printout of Buffalo, so I knew where I have to go. However, from Salt Lake City, I assumed that there's a train that goes to Wyoming, because in Romania, I was very used to trains. We never had a family car. So I always commuted by public transportation means. So when I landed in Salt Lake City, and I said, okay, where are the train station? So they sent me to the train station. So it's a few blocks away. So it was a few blocks, so it turned out being like a 45 minutes walk for me through some very sketchy neighborhoods where people, let's say, they just warm up around barrels. And the nicest streets I ever roamed on. I made it, though nobody had nothing to say. And then I spent the first night at Motel 6, where when I was trying to check in, when I went to front desk, they had police vehicles in front of it arresting somebody. So it was all the Hollywood movies all in once, all within the first half a day of me being there. And upon finding out there's no train taking people to Wyoming, and I said, okay, what's my other way of getting there? So they said, it's Greyhound, which was another experience for me, because in order to get from Salt Lake City to Buffalo, I had to go all the way around the state. I ended up to change in Idaho and in Montana to track down south to Wyoming. That was like a 22, 23 bus ride. I had to change 3 different buses. And we took breaks here and there. We stopped in gas stations so people could go use the restroom and get a beverage. And I remember having $5 bills. Was my lowest bill, and I couldn't get no sodas because they all asked for $1 bill, and I wasn't sure if they're gonna give me any change or not. So I just didn't want to change $5 for a drink. But yeah, and I remember getting out in Buffalo at the bus station, and I was heading towards the motel across the street from the parking lot. And it was a big lightning bolt just struck the parking lot in front. I was like, I wonder if this is time for me to turn around and go home, or should I just carry on? But that was quite a trip. And then I remember getting to Buffalo. I pulled my map out, and I saw that wasn't that far to get to the Circle Drive. And then, so as I was tracking my way, the police car stopped by me and kind of looked at me. I looked at them, and they saw me looking at the map, and I didn't run. I didn't do nothing stupid, so they just kept on driving. And that was probably the scariest part of all this travel, beside the dumpster fire and the people getting arrested. When I reached the address and I was sitting and looking at it, be like, I'm wondering if this is the real deal or this just a good old Romanian robbery where they sell you fake papers and fake contracts. So I waited there on my backpack for a good hour and a half before it was light enough outside for me to go ring the doorbell. So that was probably the scary part of the whole travel, just sitting on my backpack contemplating, I'm here now. What's next? If this is not the paper that was sold, what's my next step?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. I know that was a surprise for us as well. That was when I met you, was when you rang the doorbell. My parents were still running our roofing company at that time, and they had applied for a bunch of H-2B visas and had used a third-party recruiting company, apparently the same third party that you had signed up for to get a work contract. And we had not heard whether we got our visas or whether we were had people coming, when they were coming, where they were coming from, until you rang the doorbell pretty early in the morning and said, I am Attila Zold here from Romania ready to go to work. So
Yeah, that was it.
that was a bit of a surprise on both sides. And that was, I think, the first day off I had in about 2.5 weeks was that day. And I got to take you up to
Took me
work
back to Casper.
and yeah, kind of show you the ropes on your first day. So, and I remember being extremely impressed then. You had, yeah, just gotten off a 22 or 24-hour bus ride and you were ready to go to work. I think we offered you a bed or a motel and you said, no, I
Nope.
came to go to work. I'm going to work. So what did you think when you first got to the U.S. and got settled in those first couple weeks? Going to work and finally getting to the U.S. would have been kind of the secondary dream. It wasn't Australia, but what was that like the first couple weeks in? Did it live up to all the hype or were you disappointed?
I was not disappointed. I would say living up to the hype, yes. However, it was for me shocking how much of the day by day routine looks just like the Hollywood movies. That back home we assume they're all just fake and all just make believe in studio, down to like the homes, the vehicles, the roads, the traffic, the fast food, the day by day life of the US citizens. When we watch the movies made in the US, we always assume that everything we see in the movie is just a movie scene and it's nothing to do with the reality. So it was fun for me to see that 80% of the movie lifestyle, it's the same with the US average guy's lifestyle. Big trucks, big buildings, lots of fast foods everywhere, people interaction. To me, it was just like a whole new experience, but it was a pleasant one. Yeah, you had the ups and downs, you have good days, bad days, but overall, I would say it was fun. It was good.
Okay.
And then, as a side funny story, the guy I work with there with Josh,
Yeah.
he's my current coworker. I'm not sure if you know
Oh,
about it, but I work again with Josh 20 years later.
okay. Josh Arden.
No, Josh Smith,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
the Pennsylvania crew, and he's an automation specialist now.
Interesting.
So 20 years later, we're reunited.
That's
So
interesting.
once again, you could be a roofing one day, a roofer, 18, 19, 20-year-old. That doesn't mean that that's it. And it could be your life career and be good at and make money out of it and have a happy life. But I remember several times that people looked down on us, and one of them was at the school in Rawlings. That's another funny story. To me, it was funny at the time and still funny till this day. I was backing up the truck to the building, and I got up on the building. We start taking down waste material from the top of the school to take it to the dump. And some kids approached the building and yelled up at me and said, "Hey, are you a roofer?" I say, "Yeah, I'm a roofer." Like the teacher said, if I don't do my homework, I'm gonna end up just like you. Like, that's a good point. Go do your homework. Teacher told the kids in school that if you don't do your homework, you're gonna become a roofer, which whatever. I'm not saying it's the best or worst job, or it's each person has an option in life to do more or less. And therefore, me being a roofer for 5, 6 years, I don't regret none of it. I just wanted to do something more. So if you want to do something different, take a different path. There are always avenues. And those are not so easy to find in Romania or in other countries. And that's where like everything I dreamed of US, it's true. Like you can do whatever you want to do. Sky is the limit. And I will never buy the fact that I couldn't do it or it was too far or there's no border between states and cities. You can just grab a backpack and go somewhere. Don't get stuck in a place and oh, I couldn't find a job working for a Wall Street Journal in Podunk, Michigan. I don't know, I'm just giving an example. Like I don't like when people complain but they do nothing to change the situation.
Yeah, that's great. And I think statistically, first generation immigrants, the percentage of first generation immigrants that become millionaires is much higher than the general public. And I think just the attitude, the perspective you just articulated is a big reason for that. They see the ample opportunity available to them rather than having more of a victim mentality. And I know it was really interesting and educational for me watching you do that and come here with nothing. You literally had your backpack that you sat on in front of the house and have built an incredible life and a great career here. So you kind of alluded to it a little bit, but I know in Romania you were fairly highly educated, had a high paying career, a career of relatively high status, even if it didn't have the highest pay, comparatively to the US or other places. Did it feel like a little bit of a step back to go from being a petroleum engineer in a professional career to be a laborer on a roofing crew?
I grew up doing chores around the house, so work with hands and was never an issue for me. The only thing that kind of made me take a step back and reanalyze everything in life was like, how fast can you fast track in life and build a house and have a saving and have a decent life here? So I had to reset my end game. And then roofing, it's a demanding work. Like when I was buying tools for my roofing job, I remember going to garage sales, which till this day I love garage sales. There's just something about them. It's just like other people's trash, it's my treasure. But I remember seeing a person having a garage sale, and the wife was selling all the tools, and I saw that everything are covered with concrete. So I knew for sure that that guy had to work with concrete. And I asked the lady, like, "Hey, is this by chance your husband tools, or who's the owner of the tools? Because everything have concrete on it." So, oh yeah, my husband worked his whole life in concrete, and he built a house and he gave us everything we have. But now he's broken on the point that he's just in a chair. He can't really walk, move much, can't do much, and he's like late 50s. So that kind of dawned on me, because if I stick to roofing for another 20, 30 years, we'll slowly put a number on your back and on your knees, on your joints, and you have to make that call, like, is this what you want to do for the rest of your life, or you want to do something different? And it covered my bills, it gave me the opportunity to travel, it gave me opportunity to make great friends, and I respect your parents for till the last day. I have great people. I never wished to, I never dreamed of having better people in my life than they been to me, or better boss. And the more fair person in my life as a leader was your father. Like it just, he had rare qualities of a leader and fairness. And it's just hard to find. And that was probably my biggest, hardest decision to make, to leave that place, because of your parents and the relationship I had with them. Mm. And that made it difficult to leave. Otherwise, I just wanted to go back to the oil field bad. It was kind of a generation thing. I was the third generation. I wanted to carry on that history. As a kid, I used to run away from kindergarten, which this sounds crazy, but it's true fact. I used to run from kindergarten with the truck drivers to go to the oil rigs, because they used to know me and my father. So I always loved that lifestyle. And it's not the most glorious lifestyle, but it's the one that makes me happy. So that's why I wanted to go back to the oil fields.
Okay. And I want to dive into your oil field career here in a little bit, but I know you mentioned earlier you put a lot of effort into and really paid attention to doing things legally and walking through the process. You came to the U.S. to work for a seasonal work visa and then returned home to Romania 3 years and then found a way to get alternating seasonal work visas and were able to work for 2 different companies and stay here year round, and then eventually became a citizen. What does that process of becoming a citizen and immigrating here look like? Was that a difficult process to navigate?
So once I was involved in the process, there were, at the time was over 200 different type of visas for US. So it's more than people know about the summer labor and the non-summer labor or whatnot. There's like 200 different types. And for example, I came to US with a non-immigrant, non-qualified worker visa. Basically, I was more or less a legal slave. I couldn't go more than 7 days without the paychecks. Otherwise, my visa would be void. So basically, you would not be allowed to leave your employer, basically, to stay legal. And the only right I had was the right to work. I had no other rights legally. I'm here to work, and as soon as the work dries up, I need to go home. That was it. No ifs and buts about it. And my mom raised us with morals. Like, we didn't have money, but we had morals. And my mom never ever allowed us to lie or to do something that was unlawful. So till this day, at times I struggle with that, because I see people getting ahead in life. They do shady things, but I like to sleep at night knowing that I haven't crossed nobody and nobody's gonna come after me. And even if it takes longer, sleeping good at night makes the next day better. So therefore, I just followed the law. I went home, I came back 3 different times, and then when I find out that I can stay here and extend the visa to a different company, basically I had a summer job with you, and then my winter job, I wanted to learn to snowboard. And I figured out if I go for work for a ski resort, I'll be the fortune guy to learn to snowboard for free. Well, they mixed up the paperwork, and me who signed up for the ski resort ended up being working inside the hotel, and the guy who signed up to be inside the hotel, they ended up working at the ski lift, and they hated their life. People from Indonesia, they never saw snow in their whole life, but that was still fun. I made some good friends, Indonesian guys, and then that was like a 3-month job, and I came back to roofing. And then we figured out in a process that if I work 3 consecutive years for the same company, and the owner have to sponsor you, which I'm grateful for parents for going through that length to help me get my paperwork straight. We started that process. But in that short stint at the ski resort, I met a girl that became my wife, and then in a process we switched from employer visa to a marriage visa because the office advised us that that's easier, better way to switch the paper. So we swapped from a company provided visa program to a marriage program, and that's how I got my citizenship in the end. And I got my work permit first, and once I got my work permit, that helped me get my citizenship, because we started the process with your parents to switch from a non-immigrant visa unqualified worker to qualified worker, because that would allow you to stay the whole year and not just the 3, 4, 6 months, whatever that summer visa was allowing you. So we in the process of getting the paper straight out, we switched from a summer job to a permanent work visa, and then from that permanent work visa to a citizenship. So it was a 7-year process in the end, and it was tons of paperwork. Every 6 months I had to renew my driving license. I know people at the DMV knew me. They used to make fun of me that, hey, here you are back. Let's go on the road. Let's get the driving license. So at one point I had a stack of driving licenses, because as you can imagine, doing it every 6 months, it gets it gets a collection done. And I can see how it could be a bother for some people. It's tedious. It's a lot of government work. My file at that point was like 2, 3 inch thick, because I used to keep all the old papers and all the papers that I filled out. And that was before the application era, where everything had to be filled by hand, mailed in. You'd get mailed back, good or bad. You have to redo certain paperwork. Because I remember I screwed up on one time on my visa application, and they came back as rejected, but I was still within the time allotted to renew my visa. So I looked over all the paperwork. So I was like, I don't know, 100 pages, and everything looked right to me, and everything was scanned by a computer. So I realized that a machine looked over the paper, not a human being. So something the machine picked up wasn't right. So I reorganized the papers. I stacked them as was required, chapter by chapter, and I just got the different. I sent in a money order, and I had split up in 3 different bills, and I ended up signing a check with all the amount in all in one. And I signed it, sent it back, and second time was a charm. So I think the money order threw the machine off, because I wasn't precise in amounts down to the cents. That's my guess till this day. But anyway, it takes a long time. It's tedious work. It was harder back then than it is now. Seeing now with all the applications, you can do things online. You can have. It's much easier now than it used to be. However, doing things the right way usually takes longer. So that's my stance on this paperwork. Like, it takes a long time and it's tedious, but like we talked earlier, nothing good in life it's easy. And you can't take shortcuts, because the shortcut I could have taken years ago when I was at bars in Wyoming in the weekends. You would have independent rig owners handing out cards, name cards, like, hey, you want to work for me? Come on, start Monday. And I've told one guy I can't do it because I'm a migrant worker and I need papers. Like, I don't care about paper, just show up and pay you cash. So you have those avenues in life. You can take a shortcut, make quick bucks now, but what you're gonna do 6 months down the road, or 5 years, or 10 years? It's up to everybody to decide what's more important to you: the quick buck over a weekend or a month, or the longevity. And I just decided to do the right way.
Yeah.
Wasn't the easy way, but it's the right way.
So do you stand by that decision? Are you glad that you did what you did, or do you ever regret not taking the shortcut?
No, I don't regret. The only regret it's the things I've never tried, and not those decisions. So nothing I've done in life that was good or bad I regret, and everything that doesn't work out or pay off is just a lesson you learn and you carry on.
Yeah.
Was never a showstopper.
Okay. So I know you worked here in Wyoming with me for I think 6 or 7 years, and then moved back into the oil and gas industry. What was that process like? Were you able to take your credentials from Romania and kind of apply them to the position you had in the US, or did you have to start over?
US don't care much about any degrees outside of the country unless you have that J1B visa where they require qualified workers, and mainly in the tech companies, medical field. My current wife, she's also from Romania, and she used to work here actually close to West Palm Beach with the J1 visa. So she was a high skilled worker. But other than that period of 6 months here or two, however long they give you the visa, like you are not legally allowed to stay longer and you are not guaranteed a job. A business is a business. Everybody wants to make money. So when they bring high qualified workers from outside of the state, is not necessary because they can find them here, but not at the price they're willing to pay.
Mm.
So that's the game. And then I moved to Alaska because I knew that it's going to be harder to shut down that field than Obama managed to do in Wyoming and North Dakota when they got elected and they decided to shut down the field for the sage grass bird nesting season. And then they decided to reroute all the federal money towards windmills. And they managed to keep most of the people employed to keep them busy, and ended up moving to Alaska because it's not a field you can just shut down overnight. And then once I moved to Anchorage, I applied for jobs. I had a goal every day, 3 jobs at minimum, and ended up calling every company Yellow Book twice in a row. And I spent every evening looking for a job. And then a couple months in, the savings started to dry up, and I realized I need to go back and work something before I got my weekly job back. So I ended up working for another year for the roofing company in Anchorage. And then I remember the first day on the job, I got a call from a company, construction company, oil field, like, hey, we want you to start Monday. And this was a Friday. And I said, I can't do it Monday because I need to put at least my 2 weeks notice because I just started today. I said, can't do that. It's either Monday or no job. So, well, I guess no job then. So it took me another year till I got the next phone call. And then a year later, I got a couple interviews and I got a general maintenance technician job on a North Slope. That was my first job on a slope. And that was in 2000, because I moved up to Alaska in 2010 and I moved, I moved out in 2010 to Alaska, and in 2011, June 23rd is when I started my job on the North Slope.
Okay.
And I had my first job was a GMT, general maintenance technician, basically a hodgepodge of jobs that needs to be done, or rush jobs from anywhere from pipe inspection to scaffold building to bolt up to everything in between. And then from there, I moved to a PSV crew, safety valve maintenance. Basically, the contract changed hands, and I wasn't really fond of the new company I was taking over that department. So I ended up moving to the instrument shop. And then I stick with the instrument shop. And then from there, I went back to UAA, University of Anchorage, and I did a process technology associate degree. And with that associate degree, I was able to be hired by BP because BP was big into hiring local residents that graduate from programs that they sponsored. And that was one of them that they pushed for, and they used to pick up top of the class in that. So I basically had to have 4.0 score for them to give me a job, which I was fortunate enough to get the job with them. So I went the avenue of going to a local college. There wasn't I paid cash for all my classes. I used to take 2, 3 classes a semester, but I also paid cash for everything. So it took me several years to finish my degree, but at the end of it, I had zero bills. Everything was paid off.
Hmm.
And I could enjoy the benefits of it without having to pay a second mortgage for 20 years. So whoever is listening to this podcast or they try to decide what to do in life, go to local college. The companies don't look at the title of the college you went to as much as they look as what you're capable of doing once you're done. So you don't have to have a $250,000 student loan to get a good job.
Yeah.
Local college can do the trick just as easy.
So the classes you took at the University of Anchorage, was that stuff you had already studied in Romania, or was that new coursework?
It was a mix. It was stuff that I already studied, and it was quite a few new ones. And I also have to be thankful for the academic advisor from the college that she really pushed for me to get certain classes from Romania brought over to US. I didn't have to take all the physics, all the math, all the biology, all the curriculum classes.
Good.
So I was able to bring some over, quite a few of them, yes. I had to redo all the labs though in physics and chemistry and everything else, which labs are cool. Like in Romania, we never had the gadgets we have here in the lab. So taking a lab here was fun. And furthermore, if you couldn't, with my job, since I'm till this day, I work 2 weeks, I'm on a job site, and 2 weeks I'm off. The college work for the so it's the job it's on a north slope in Prudhoe Bay. The Alaskans call it the slope, and we're slopers. So the college said the slopers are allowed to miss classes, but you have to catch up. So even for the physics lab, they gave me the big old box mailed home with everything you'd have in a lab, and then you'd have to record yourself replicating all the classes at home, and you have to come up with your own numbers and your conclusion. And that was valid for missing class. But at the end of it, when you had to take the test, you had to go in person at the college and take the test under surveillance. So it was fun. It was lots of fun, and I'm thankful that they're willing to work with workers basically.
Yeah.
If you miss a class or you miss they had my schedule, so the teacher knew exactly what class I'm going to miss and what class I'm going to attend. And for all the missing classes, I either had to make up and record my own experiments at the house, or I had to log in after hours at work and watch the recorded class. And I wasn't aware at the time, I found out later in time that they can actually see if you watched the whole video, if you paused it, if you skipped it. The teacher had all the technology back then to follow you through your classes, even if it was recorded and remote after hours. It's kind of cool.
Having gone through a college education in Romania and then again here in the US, what is your view of a college education and its value? How will you advise your kids when they're thinking about going into a career field or going to college and what they're going to go to school for? What advice would you give them?
Well, that's gonna be a few years down the road, but it's way different now. Like I was thinking, I was talking to my coworkers about it, like, what would you advise your kids to go to college now? What for? Because AI is coming, like it or not, it is coming. I see it already in our jobs, how much it's changing things day by day. So, what skill is going to be useful 15 years from now, 20 years from now, that a computer robot cannot do for you? So, I see more hands on skills, complicated skills that the computer not going to be able to do. Like web design, computer building, chips building, house building. Who knows what's going to be in 20 years from now? But it's very difficult to think of a path, even medicine. Like a computer can do an X-ray, can analyze a X-ray scan, or can analyze a ultrasound way better than human eye can. So it's very hard to predict what the kid's gonna do. I'm definitely gonna encourage them to study and read, because that was one thing we got told from kids. Like the government can take anything from you, but they cannot take your knowledge away.
Hmm.
So from that standpoint, even if you don't have a college degree, but at least be educated. And like Elon Musk kept saying that this day and age, you can watch YouTube and you can learn as much as you want to and as much as you're willing to learn. You don't have to go to college to be educated, but you have to spend your time wisely with the information available. Because you can get sucked in computer games and just watch YouTubes all day long and not learning anything. But education, it's important, at least to have a good boundaries of what's good, what's bad, what's useful, what's not.
So you mentioned that you work kind of 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, an alternating schedule. Is that do you enjoy that schedule? Is that difficult? Was it something that you had to adjust to? What are your thoughts about the lifestyle that goes along with working on the North Slope?
I saw that as a kid. So my dad's job was never remote. He was always home every evening. But I had neighbors. They used to work remote. Like all the rig work over and the drilling crews, they always had that 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off schedule in Romania. So as a kid, I saw that as weird, but not unheard of. Once I got that job in Alaska, I wanted to go so bad that I didn't care about schedule. I was single, and who cared about when you're home and when you're not? Now, my wife never saw me with any different job but that job, so she's used to that schedule. However, for people that think it's weird and you cannot keep a family for being gone for 2 weeks, I will throw in a curveball. So I have 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, and on top of that, I have 3 weeks pay vacation. So if you take that into account, I work 5 months and 1 day, 1 week a year, and I'm off for 6 months. How many people have full paycheck and are off for 6 months? And when I say off for 6 months, you can be anywhere on the planet. You can set your schedule for 2 years down the road. I know exactly what days in 2027 I'm going to be off, and I can book ahead vacations, and I can go on vacation every month because I have 2 weeks off every month. So the drawback of not being home every evening, it compensated by being home and being able to do things that for other people is difficult.
Yeah, that's great.
I'll miss, I'll miss birthdays and I'll miss holidays and this, that, the other. But at the end of the day, it's like, I think it's the best schedule ever for me. And then I'm not home to help my wife every day, but when I'm home, home. I don't have that. I have to run to work in the morning or evening or afternoon. I don't have to be on call. Like I can just turn my cell phone off and I'm completely for her and for kids and I'm there for any moment of the day.
That's great. Yeah, that sounds like you spin that, so that sounds pretty great. When you are there and are on for 2 weeks, what does the 2 weeks on look like? Do you have any days off at all, or do you just work 14
No,
days straight?
14 days straight, 12 hours minimum. So we work from 6 to 6 every day. But this is another aspect of my job that most people don't know about it. We're on call 24/7. So anytime one of these machines goes down, we have to respond to it. And then due to the nature of the machines, the planes fly 24/7. So they go through rainstorms at time. And that actually washes the jet, which nobody thinks of that. You can lose 10% efficiency in a jet engine just by having dust on the blades.
Mm,
So we have to wash the machines twice a year. So we call it the water wash festival. During the water wash, then we clock easily 100, 120 hours a week.
wow.
So you put in some hours quick. But again, I enjoy it. There's nothing of it that bothers me. And then we're paid for it. Like we're paid by the hour, and we're being paid for those call outs. So in the middle of the night, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, 5 in the morning, when we're being called out, you're being compensated for it. It's not we're not salaried, so we don't feel like we're just putting a lot of time and effort in, and we're not compensated for it. So I think we're compensated fairly. And I was telling my coworkers, I will never riot for a pay raise, but we'll never be against it either. So within reason, if they want to offer me a pay raise, if we have to go sit down, have a conversation, I'm for it. But I will never not be grateful for what I have.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a good place to be. So you've lived a very unique life and have been through a lot of interesting things growing up in communist Romania, being educated there, moving to the US, getting a career as a roofer, and then more education and back into the oil and gas field. If you could go back and do it all again, would you do all of those steps again? Is there anything you would change about your journey to where you
Like I
are?
said, everything happens for a reason, and it's nothing I would do different. Like I'm happy with my decisions, and they paid off. I wish I would have spent more time with my parents when I had the opportunity to do, because at times when I had my summer breaks or when I went back from Romania, I went and spent some time with friends and whatnot. And I wish I'd have made a stronger effort to go visit them more when I had the opportunity. That's the only thing I would change. But other than my travel and job decisions, I'm good with that. Like every decision I made, I'm happy with.
Awesome. And I know you walked us through a few of your early jobs, being a maintenance technician and moving more into the tech side of things. What job is it that you're doing on the North Slope now? What specifically do you handle?
Now I'm a part of the crew turbine controls, and we're doing maintenance on basically industrial jet engines. We do everything from my crew takes care of program coding to troubleshooting and repairs on the instrumentation side of the jet engines. And we work hand in hand with the crew of mechanics. They're specialized in taking them apart and rebuilding them. So they go through cycles based on how many hours they've been in service. They have to be either a minor inspection, visual inspections to a complete tear apart and rebuild. So we support that part of the industry. The jet engines in oil field are used for power generation and compression. They're used for driving large equipment, large compressor and water pumps.
Okay.
Those are the three main branches they're used for.
I know you had told us a little bit about the turbine specifically and how that fits into the system, but I'm just kind of curious. Uh, you know, at least for myself, I hear a lot about the gas and oil fields and the North Slope of Alaska, but what is the process of extracting gas and oil? What is it that you guys do? What does that look like? Could you help the novice that just knows oil comes out of the ground understand that process a little bit?
There's a couple of different ways to get oil and gas out of the ground. You'll have the Middle East, where it's built under pressure in the ground. It has like several layers of different deposits on top of it that applies pressure to it. And once you drill a hole deep enough to reach the petroleum reserves, then it comes out under natural pressure. And basically, it's just a water well. And for them, it's very cheap and very easy because all they have to do is drill a well and it's gushing oil out on its own power. In US, most of it comes out with jack pumps. It's not under huge amount of pressure, so you have to use a jack pump to extract the oil, and it's not high volume, but it's steady for a long time, and it's going to pay off in time. On the North Slope, we use the pressure, the natural deposit pressure to extract the oil, and that was the easy oil known in the industry, where you just drill a hole. If you have enough know-how and enough luck to hit the proper spot, then you can have oil for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Now, the deposits start losing momentum, so they had to introduce additional pressure, and they're using the gas that comes with the oil. It's separated in facilities, and the gas is re-injected to apply pressure on the oil.
Mm.
And then also they're adding seawater and they're adding some MI to it to dissolve the oil from the rock and push it towards the production well. So you have where I work, we have water injection well, gas injection wells, and the WAG wells, water alternating gas. So they for the geologists establish a cycle for wells, the injection wells to inject the miscible injection gas alternating with water. The gas is dissolving the oil from the rock, and then the water is just pushing it towards the production well. So all the wells at work, they're operating under pressure, so they're not jack pumps.
Okay.
And then from the field, the oil, water, and gas, because it's a mix, they come to the facilities. They have, imagine like a giant incoming tanks where all that mix goes in, and they have a very rough separation. You have the gas living at the top, you have the water at the bottom, and oil in the middle. So they'll separate those three, and then they'll go to different trains and different systems, and basically you're continuously stripping oil from the water and stripping gas from the oil under different pressure and under different circumstances. By the end of the day, you'll have the production field, it's piped into a production facility, they'll separate water, gas, and oil. Water is re-injected, gas is re-injected, and then the oil, it's cleaned and shipped into Trans-Alaska system to Valdez, where it's shipped to tankers, and then it's shipped down to the West Coast for refineries.
Okay.
And then where the gas turbines come into play, they're generating the power for the whole field and for all devices. If you look on the map, the North Slope, it's 700 miles away from Fairbanks, which is the second largest city in Alaska. So it's remote, it's cut away from civilization, it's cut away from everything and everybody. So basically, they have to be self-reliant, and they're producing their own power. So you have power generation, and then they're used for taking the vapor from tanks at low pressure gas and pump it up to mid pressure gas, and from mid pressure gas to high pressure gas for re-injection. So you have turbines taking that gas on steps from low pressure to medium pressure to high pressure. And then same way you use turbines for driving huge water pumps for re-injection. And there are several other uses also for refrigerant and for other cycles. But in a nutshell, you're using as a driving force, high power driving force, either for power generation or for mechanical use for driving pumps and compressors.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. I'm not educated in the oil field. I was wondering what in the world you use a jet engine for in the oil field, but there you go. So, well, if there's somebody listening that's not from the U.S. that has ambitions to do something similar to what you've done, what advice would you give them?
An advice that nobody likes, because I've gave already to many people. Don't dream of coming over and the next day to fall into a high paid big company job. You go out there, have a slice of humble pie, and start wherever you can to put your foot in and be good at and work hard towards whatever the job is, from flipping burgers to putting shingles on a roof or a metal roof, and do what it takes to stay legal, and then use wisely all your opportunities that arrive. But the first 6 months you'll get nowhere, and then the following months it's gonna puzzle start to build in front of you. But you have to be patient, and you have to focus on a 5, 6, 7, 10 year plan, and not next week I want to be a millionaire. It doesn't happen overnight.
I think that's good advice for American citizens as well. I think there's a lot of young people that think that they're just going to get a job and be a success overnight, and they expect to have what their parents had at the end of a long career when they start out. So yeah, start humble and take advantage of opportunities as they come to build to where you want to be instead of expecting to be there right away. That's great advice.
And you will fail, and I failed at many steps, and don't give up. Keep on driving, keep on going, because otherwise everybody had at least a fail in life, and if we all stop at that point, then nobody gets nowhere.
So what has been the most difficult step in your journey from childhood in Romania to the life that you have now?
It's hard to put on one single point what was the most difficult, but like I said, there are ups and downs. Like there frustration in Wyoming when you try to do roofing and you have snow and wind and rain and trees are going crooked and you have to be in rollings from all the places. There are ups and downs. I wouldn't say the most difficult. It's looking back now, things that at certain points in life seems to be the end of the world, overall is just another day in life. It's never like starting, like you said, starting over. Second time starting with the backpack after my first marriage ended, I started with $50 in my bank account and start from scratch again. I went from purchasing a house to renting a room from a coworker. There are times in life when things are crummy and it looks like this is the end of it, and it's just another chapter. You just work through it and make smart choices. Don't do nothing stupid and start all over. You've done it once, you can do it twice, three, 5 times. Just don't give up. Keep on going.
That is some good advice there, and maybe a follow up question is you just mentioned you've kind of started from scratch 3 times. You built a life in Romania, gaining an education, and then started over with nothing but a backpack in Wyoming, and then started over a third
Started all
time.
over again.
Yeah, started over a third time with nothing but a backpack and $50 in your pocket in Alaska. What is it that keeps you moving forward, that keeps you pressing forward when things get hard and really hard?
Seeing my parents, how they handled hard times in life. Like I said, growing in a communist country, they had really no money. When my parents passed away, we sold everything they had, including the house, and it was less than $10,000. So that just give you a perspective of what they had after a life of working hard. So it's not what you have, it's how you handle it. And they've been happy through some rough time and they've been fine. And the one thing is just have a person in your life that you can count on and work. You can work everything out in life, but that's what I was driven by. See how my parents, they handled everything in life, good, bad, with or without money, with or without food. And as a kids, we always had food on the table. So I want to make that clear. But as a parents, now looking back, they at times they split out the food in portions that the kids had food, but they never really went to bed full all the time. But they always smiled and they always tried to keep us on a positive attitude and just have to keep on trying and try harder, and one day it's gonna pay off. So at the end of the day, that's where I draw my strength. And then I'm fortunate in life now to have a very happy family and two wonderful kids. And at the end of the day, that's the most important part. To I guess the best investment you do in life is a good partner. That could make or break the person.
Oh man, there's some
And
wisdom
then,
there.
and then now having a wonderful family, beautiful wife, two beautiful children, it's like everything else just a bonus.
Yeah. Great. Great. Is there an opinion that you once held strongly that you've changed your mind about after your many life experiences?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm an opinionated person. I still kind of speak up what I think, and I offend people here and there, which that's fine. I've learned that everybody have their own opinion, and they are entitled to their own opinion. So just because I see something right or wrong, the person next to me doesn't have to obey or adjust to it. But I'm gonna tell them how I see things, that they can do whatever they want to do. But I can see how that I've changed in time about strongly suggesting something and wanting people to follow through, and like, this is what I'm gonna tell you if you want to listen, and if not, go run off the cliff. I don't care. I'll try to steer in the right direction, but if you refuse to take that, I will not stop you. You just can go nuts.
Okay.
That's what I've changed.
Yeah. I appreciate your strong opinionated stance, and I know we've had a lot of great discussions, and it's always fun hearing your opinion about various things. So, was there any mistake you've made that you wish you could have avoided?
I made several mistakes. Wishing washing is not leading to anything good. Every mistakes I made, I learned something from them, good or bad. So you have to make mistakes to learn. Because if you're gonna overanalyze things and you try to avoid any mistakes, by overanalyzing, you're not gonna do half the things you should be doing, and by not doing half those things, you miss half the opportunities. So everything you do, it's either end up in something bad as a mistake, and you're gonna learn from it and do better, but the most important part is to do something. Like, don't wait for things to happen. To just be active, be proactive. And if you do something really stupid, then just don't record it, don't post it, and learn from it. Don't do it again, because that's the downfall of this generation. They want to record everything.
Oh man, yeah, I am really glad that my teenage years were not documented as things are today. That would not have been fun. What has been your biggest win? What are you most proud of in life?
My current job and my current family and my kids, those three combined. That's the trifecta of success. And I feel a very successful person right now. It might not seem like that to the millionaire neighbors. It might not seem like that to many people I grew up with or people around me. But I gave up pleasing other people. So right now I'm focused on my family's well-being and my kids' well-being and my happiness. And this job helps me be happy, provides everything for my family, and we're fine and we're happy. And that's the most important part. Don't try to impress and please other people. Just live your life for yourself and for family. And if your family has a negative effect on your daily days activities, which fortunately I see that more and often, sometimes it's good to put a bit of distance between you and your family and pull yourself out of a bad spot. If that has to happen, then just follow through and keep a distance from people that pulls you down.
Okay. Yeah, there's some great advice there, and that hits a little harder knowing it's not the millionaires next door. You live kind of in a community of billionaires, and so
True.
to be content with the life you have and enjoy the good things in life that you have, that says a lot where you're at and where you've come from. So yeah, there's a lot of wisdom right there. Was there one point in your journey where you felt like you kind of take a deep breath and let it out, and you felt like you made it? You had a level of security, a level of success. Maybe you had accomplished that goal that was immediately in front of you. Was there a time where you were able to kind of just take a deep breath and appreciate where you've made it to?
I have several of those throughout my lifetime, and the biggest and more recent was when I was hired by BP in 2018. That was one of my big goals, and I no longer work for them. Not by my choice. They ended up selling all the assets in Alaska, and they moved on. But when I got the U.S. visa, when I got the gas job in Romania, when I got to Buffalo, Wyoming, but there are many successes in life. There isn't just one that stands out, but the latest and the one I felt a big step in life was when I was hired by BP, and that came with a generous wage compensation.
Hmm.
and that allowed me just to spring forward and put behind me all the daily bill worries, and that allowed me to travel more. And at that point in life, I was single, and I remember I was residing in Alaska, and I was at work in Alaska for 6 months. But in my 2 weeks off, I maybe stayed once in Alaska, and I just zigzagged. I was bouncing from New York to Florida to Hawaii. World was just an oyster. Like, I was everywhere. Since then, I made some choices now that doesn't allow me to do that anymore, because now I have a larger house, a larger footprint, young kids, good things in life, nothing bad about them. But now I have to wait a couple more years. This munchie can grow a little bit so we can resume our travels a bit more. Yeah, that was one that I could definitely say that changed my life drastically.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. And like I said, it's just been a privilege to get to watch from the sidelines of you've built the life that you have and accomplished all that you have. I think you are living proof the American dream is live and well. So, uh, well, this is my favorite question I ask of every guest. Are you a person of a particular faith tradition? And if so, how has that shaped your life?
Fun story, a little of a backstory. I was born Sunday at 11 o'clock, and that is when they rang the bells in Romania. So my wife, my mom took that as a sign that I will be a priest, because she was very, very faithful. So as kids, we had to go every Sunday to church, and every Saturday they had youth classes for kids. So I attended church quite a bit as a kid. Unfortunately, I have not been at church in years since I'm in US, and it's not the US fault, it's my own choosing. But we are faithful in a family. I'm not trying to preach for people, but you can take valuable lessons from the Bible, as like, be humble, be honest, be faithful, be loyal, be straight, don't lie, don't cheat, and life's going to be good. If anything else, like, these are things that are in there, they're not going to harm nobody. I don't care what faith you are and what beliefs you have, these things cannot hurt nobody, period. So we're actually planning now to take the kids home to Romania in June, and they're going to be baptized in the beginning of July. So they're going to be baptized, and we're going to try to raise them with Christian values.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I know maybe more just for you and I than for the listeners, but we spent a lot of time together here in Wyoming roofing and even traveling the country a few different times and doing different things. Are there any memories from your time in Wyoming and roofing that really stand out to you that are treasured memories or things that come up frequently?
The one thing I use the most is rollings, and that's used as a bad example. Like, that is to me, that's the armpit of US. I don't offend people from Rawlings. I'm not saying they're bad people. It's just, why you choose to live there, that's your own decision, not mine.
Okay.
However, fishing in Rawlings, when they have the bad rainy days, there was fun memories all the times with the crew, and overall the picnics and the evenings and the weekends with the guys, I always think of those as best times ever. And the scenic routes we took through northwest Wyoming and the time we spent in the mountains, that I will cherish those forever. And that's why I took my wife to those routes when we moved from Alaska to Florida, because there's a beauty to the mountains and that countryside that books don't do justice, videos don't do justice. You have to see them with your own eyes to truly appreciate them. So Yellowstone, Great Tetons, driving across the mountains, cabins in the mountains, all that to me is fun memories. And I want to take my kids back there too one day. And that's what I took away from Wyoming.
Okay.
Time with coworkers, evenings, barbecues, fishing trips, and mountain time, camping, fishing. That to me, that it's life. Like, at one point I was dreaming that I will be moved to LA or New York, one of these mad places that would be so cool to live in. And the more time I spent in Buffalo, Wyoming, and in Tenslip and Meeteetse and Laramie and all the small places, the more I appreciate them. And till this day and age now, like, I want to do anything but LA or New York. Like, they can have it. They can have it all. I do like mountainside of Wyoming, and I appreciate the opportunities to be alone in nature and be at peace. That's something that money can buy.
Awesome. Well, I will be thoroughly looking forward to when your kids are old enough to come out, and I hope you'll get in touch and maybe we can go relive some of those experiences and check out some of those places together. That'd be a lot of fun.
I want to bring him out to the cabin to go canoeing.
Absolutely. We'll make that happen. We were up there just last weekend checking things out and had a few mice that we had to take care of and clean stuff up, but it's still there and in good shape, and that'd be a lot of fun. Is there somebody that you'd like to see on the show? Somebody that has a really unique background, a unique career, or works in an industry that you'd love to learn a little bit more about?
The one person I wanted to see was already on the show, and that was your father. And that to me, that was it.
Okay.
Because that was my one person that I want people to see it, because I was fortunate enough to spend a couple hours around him, to know him. You can learn some bits of wisdom that they come for free and they're everlasting. And I'm still struggling to follow one of his recipes and his advices. If you don't have nothing good to say about the person, don't speak up, which it's very, very difficult till this day. Like, I'm trying, I'm just failing.
We might have to have him on for a second episode and dive a little bit more into his search and rescue career and less into roofing. That might be fun to hear from him again. So
It would be.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, a question we ask most guests, I know we've missed a couple of them, but to either settle or fuel the debate, if you have a job to do and have to pick a cordless tool, which brand do you prefer?
A few years back, and I'm saying like 10 years back, I'd be looking on Google what's the fanciest, most expensive tool, so I can show off to my friends that I have the most badass kit. This day and age is pretty much Milwaukee, because you can see a box and full of Milwaukee, from boxes to stack boxes to chainsaws, blowtorches, you name it. They make everything. However, I have a set of Craftsman in the house. And the reason I have a Craftsman, I went to Lowe's and I went to Home Depot, and that was the cheapest with the most tools in it. And that's what I purchased. And they will do just fine. And at the time, I didn't have a Harbor Freight next to me. Now, if I have to buy one, I'll go to Harbor Freight and buy the cheapest tool they have. Because for the house use, you will never really take advantage of the high brand, high dollar tools unless you want to show off. For a company, it's a different thing. If you're going to use and abuse the tools, then you want to buy the one with the best warranty and the one that has some quality behind it. But for the average home user, you don't need no fancy brands. You just buy one that will do the job. It doesn't cost an arm and a leg, because at the end of the day, we're going to collect dust in the garage or in the shed or in the shop. They're not going to be in no museums. And there's a million plus tools now. You can go Milwaukee, DeWalt. Sky is the limit. But like I said, I picked the Craftsman. That was the cheapest. And once you buy a half dozen batteries, it doesn't make sense to buy another brand to collect another half dozen batteries and then just have like a million cordless tools on the wall. But I'm Craftsman.
Okay.
Price-wise, that was the wisest decision.
Good stuff. Yeah, I know the batteries seem to be the biggest investment there. There are, especially the big high-capacity batteries, those batteries cost more than almost any tool you can buy. So,
yes.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there. The batteries are kind of, once you get a set of batteries, that's where you're headed. For a listener, whether they're a U.S. citizen or not, if they have ambition to pursue a job in the oil and gas field, if that's something that sounds interesting to them, what advice would you have for them to get started in that field or pursue that career?
Move to a state where they have fields. That's step one. Or go online and apply for jobs, because North Slope, unfortunately, require a lot of skilled work and workers that they don't necessarily have a pool to draw from Alaska, so they're willing to allow you to commute there and work there and still live in a different state. However, the easy way to get in is start low as a roustabout, a mechanic, anywhere you want to start, and then just go online and apply.
Okay.
It doesn't hurt. And I applied for hundreds of jobs for a whole year. So just because you apply for 2 jobs and never got an interview, don't stop there. Just like with everything else, just keep on trying till you succeed. Like, don't stop. And you can find good jobs anywhere, from the Gulf of Mexico to the Midland, Texas, to North Dakota, to Alaska, and not so much in California anymore. They still have a bunch of oil wells, but they just hide them in buildings and warehouses so people don't see them when they drive by. You can't see it is not there. That's how California functions.
Oh man, well I feel like you just summed up a big part of your story there is you just don't quit. You keep applying, keep doing whatever it takes to move to that next step. And you've built a pretty incredible life that you have to be proud of. So
I'm very, very happy where I'm at in life.
that's awesome. Well, Attila, thank you so much for joining us, for making the time. You really have an incredible story and have had an incredible journey, and you have worked incredibly hard for the life that you've built. Just as somebody that's been privileged to watch that, man, I'm proud of you. I'm impressed with what you've done, and I appreciate you taking the time to chat with us today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me. I enjoyed just as much as you did having me on this podcast. And like I said, I'm looking forward to come see you again.
Same. And thank you guys for joining us here on From the Ground Up Show. Again, if you want to support the show, pause it right now, take a moment, send this episode to a friend that might appreciate it. You can find us on social media at From the Ground Up Show. Make sure you like, subscribe, share there. And make sure you're subscribing on YouTube or on whatever podcast platform you're listening on. Hit that auto download button so we get credit for that download right away. And if you can leave us a 5-star review or a comment, all of those things really help move us up in the algorithms, and that's the best thing you can do to support the show. And if you want to grab some new From the Ground Up Show merch, check out our online store at shop.fromthegroundupshow.com. Again, that is shop.fromthegroundupshow.com. Until next time, keep grinding.